again with the two hardest working guys in the biz. Buck, I don't know if you know this, but Lucas has been in since 6 in the morning, so getting after it today.
Yeah, let him whine a little louder on social media.
Yeah, I've been complaining about it all day, Austin. He's well aware.
I had to. It's too easy.
You know why Austin is well aware? Because he saw me bitching about you bitching earlier, and so now he had to bring it back to the forefront. Just completely and totally ridiculous. Unbelievable. 615. Oh, no, I don't know why I just gave out the number. Austin Burlage is here. I'm all kinds of distracted. All right, Austin, Vols.
Yes, sir.
Missouri. It was an utter ass-kicking from start to finish in favor of Tennessee. They put 60-plus points on a team. I know Missouri's defense sucked. We talked about it all last week. How did they do it? What was allowing them to have so much success? And was Missouri right in firing parts of their defensive stat yesterday?
Yeah, that's a lot there. So what I thought was interesting, and we said it last week, right, was, okay, Missouri was terrible at defending the run. But I think you could look at it and say, well, their two losses on the year were to Kentucky and Boston College, who were 8-0 going into the weekend, and then obviously Kentucky got a big win over Florida for the first time since I've been alive at home, and then Boston College took Clemson down to the wire at Clemson. So, two good teams, and you wondered, like, well, were they bad at defending the run because those are actually two good teams, or like what was it? And when we watched the film on them, it seemed like, it was more of an issue of they just could not fit the run appropriately. And when I say that, I just mean like getting their defensive players into the offensive gaps, like, correctly. And there's ways to do that where you can have fewer defenders than there are gaps, and you can kind of steal gaps and things like that. But that gets to like higher level. Like at the most basic structure is you want a guy in every gap, right? In theory. And Missouri was not able to do that well. And what I thought was interesting, and I'm going to pull it up if I can, but there was an article that they switched their entire formation, which they went from a 4-2-5, which is pretty common, and then tried to play a 3-3-5. And not only that, but they moved some of their defensive linemen to playing middle linebacker in that 3-3-5. So not only did Missouri have struggles defending the run in their two prior games, they said, no, let's change our entire scheme to play Tennessee's offense and see if we can do it that way. And it did not work.
No, in fact, it worked to the tune of almost 470 yards on the ground alone, which is I thought, again, it was like Vanderbilt being shut out. Was it 62-0 last week by Georgia? I thought my ESPN app was broken when I went to check it the next day. I could not believe what I was seeing about the Tennessee-Missouri game. So in saying that, Austin, because you obviously are focused on the X's and O's and the decision-making of the staff and the schematics of the football team, have you ever seen what Missouri did work successfully or work in any way, shape, or form when a coaching staff just decides, hey, let's go wholesale. Let's try to change up what we do. Institutional knowledge be damned, even if what we've been doing hasn't been working well, let's try to completely switch it up and it blow up in their face as dramatically as you saw it happen to Missouri on Saturday.
Yeah, right. I have not. What I will say, I'll give Missouri a little credit in terms of, like, it wasn't totally off base. Like, there was an article by Dave Matter and I'll tweet it out, but basically saying, this defense has had success against Heupel in the American Athletic Conference before, and that is correct. Like, one team that did it well was Tulsa. And actually, I would think that Missouri, one of their secondary coaches, is from the Tulsa staff that beat Heupel. So I think that's where the idea for implementing this came from, and they did have success with it. They're doing that. But with them, they would usually bring like a corner from the boundary, so they were still getting guys into the run. Like, they were stealing guys that were maybe like unconventional. You wouldn't think of a corner going up and fitting in the run, but they would do that, and they were able to somewhat bend but not break, and they had the offense to match it. But I have not seen like what they did, where they just totally changed scheme entirely, and not only that, but they were playing freshmen or defensive linemen at middle linebacker in a new package, and one of them was a true freshman. That's pretty unheard of, and I don't understand. This is me personally, that maybe there's some issue with the staff, but I thought it was a little bit knee-jerk of firing the defensive line coach when like the scheme wouldn't lend itself to defending that well. Like they did not have the appropriate scheme, so then it felt reactionary to just, well, somebody's got to go because it was that bad, so it's you because we don't like you. I don't know. Maybe there's something going on there. Obviously, we've seen it at Tennessee where Pruitt fired his defensive line coach and then took over the line duties, but that was probably more internal stuff. And when you think about success in major Power 5 football, like you think about the quarterback position and the line, so to lose your defensive line coach by choice in the middle of the season is certainly head scratching to me. But again, maybe there's something else going on there.
Austin Burlage of Power T Tape is with us on 104.5 The Zone. We take a quick diversion from the suffering of Titans fans to celebrate what the Vols did on Saturday. I'm currently watching Tyon Evans, his 92-yard rush for a touchdown. Let's talk about what Tennessee did on the defensive side of the ball, though, Austin, because we talked about Tyler Beatty, the Missouri running back, who's as big a threat in the receiving game as he is in the rushing attack, and he did precious little in both. I mean, 21 carries for 41 yards was abysmal, and he did even less as a receiving option. What was Tennessee doing to neutralize successfully Missouri's best weapon?
Yeah, I think they just stayed aggressive. That's something Tennessee has done all year. Obviously, they've defended the run really well and have played well on the defensive line. So one thing that I think Missouri does really well offensively is their motions and shifts. They have a lot of eye candy. And then they run, and Beatty scored one of his touchdowns on it, that weak side outside zone play. They do block that really well. They play it really well, but Tennessee really aggressive up front, and we're able to defeat blocks. And I hate to reduce it to that because there's scheme can get really complicated, but at the end of the day, the Tennessee defense was just so aggressive with him. And obviously we're very aware of him in the passing game, where he's, I believe, coming into the game was their number one receiving option as well.
Yeah.
And so, just a huge focus of their offense, and it's somewhat of, I hate to use this word, but Belichick type philosophy, where it's like, hey, we're going to eliminate your best guy, and you're going to have to figure it out with whoever else you got. And, they couldn't do it. So I felt good about that. And some of that too, though, is playing team, complementary football, and the offense getting out to such a big lead and eliminating some of what Missouri probably wanted to do in the game plan, right? When you're down 28-3, a lot of what you were hoping to do goes out the window.
So, Austin, overarching takeaway, given how bad Missouri was defensively, Tennessee Tech literally defended the run far better against Tennessee than Missouri did on Saturday. What can you really take away? Whether it's evaluating Hendon Hooker, the wide receiver core, which, by the way, Jalen Hyatt, again, a non-factor. What can you truly take away that you might have actually learned about this offense as we see it take its biggest leap of the season? It's just against probably the worst defense in the SEC.
Yeah, that's a great question, Lucas. So I think you hit on it with the quarterback. I don't really know if there's a lot you can take away from the run game. I think we already knew Small and Evans were really good. I think we thought really, really highly of Evans. And so, I think we didn't really learn much from that because they've changed their entire defense and they didn't play it well, like we've talked about. But I think Hooker did play well enough to really eliminate any and all doubt of if there's a competition and whether or not, is Milton healthy? Or I think the way that Hooker was able to throw the ball downfield, like the first touchdown to Peyton, I forget who he hit on another one. But yeah, his downfield accuracy was much improved and ran the ball well, stayed healthy. So I think we can take that away, that he played well and has separated himself in game snaps as the guy. as far as like looking ahead, I think South Carolina's not a great team either, but I don't think they're going to do what Missouri tried to do. So I don't know if you can really take the offensive output and apply it down the road as much, and especially because we still have some pretty good defenses on the schedule. So, but yeah, I mean, it feels good to win one and put up that many points for sure.
Austin Burlage at Austin_Burlage is where you can follow him. His work for Power T Tape. We discuss the Vols result every Monday with him, and we appreciate him taking some time. Thank you, buddy.
Thanks, guys. Hope it gets better.
Well, listen, you know this better than anybody, Austin. A little bit of disaster is good for business sometimes. So we'll get back to the phone lines.
That is true.
615-737-1045 is how you jump back in on the Titans conversation, because we did